If you've been to Korea recently, you probably know Daiso, the one with the 12-story flagship in Myeongdong, packed with tourists. Nothing over 5,000 Korean won, or about $4. Korea's answer to dollar store or to Don Quixote is Japan's more your reference. Daiso is a must-go for foreign tourists. Koreans even coined the word 올다무, Olive Young, Daiso, 무신사. The new pilgrimage, the three brands all foreigners go when visiting Korea. Shop at Daiso and the receipt keeps getting longer, but the guilt never shows up, because it's cheap, and not just cheap, but worth the price. Here is the strange part. Dollar stores are a dying business globally. In America, 99 cents only just closed all 371 locations and vanished. That same year, Daiso posted the biggest numbers in its history, $2.8 billion in revenue, and not 1 year down in the past 11 years. Today I'll answer two questions. Who built Daiso, and why it is so good at sweeping up both tourists and locals' money. I'm Ku, and welcome to Ku Report. Let's dive in. Summer 2019, Japan restricts exports to Korea, and Korea answers with the biggest consumer boycott in its modern history. No, Japan. Boycott banners got up in the streets, and the country's best-known Japanese brands take the hit. Japanese beer sales collapsed. Uniqlo stores sit empty. And on the boycott list, next to the Japanese brands, sits Daiso. That year, Daiso's operating profit fell 39%. The accusation was simple. A Japanese entity owned 34% of Daiso. The man at the center would spend the next 4 years and $382 million of money erasing that association. His name is Jung-Woo Park, a self-made man, not born into anything close to a billion-dollar business. Daiso's foundation is a story of how a somewhat ordinary man built a multi-billion-dollar empire that began from a factory floor. 1973, a light bulb factory in a Seoul industrial district. Park starts on the production floor and stays 15 years. Youngest production chief in company history, then plant manager. Remember that job title. Everything we're about to open was designed by a man who thinks in factory cost, not store shelves. In 1988, at age 43, he walks out after an internal dispute. No office, no capital. He starts a trading company out of his mother's home, working off the kitchen table. For comparison, Sam Walton opened his first Walmart at 44. The age most people wind their careers down is the age both of these men started theirs. Park started to buy goods and resell them. His first big client is Daiso Sangyo, Japan's 100 yen shop giant. For the next 9 years, Park fills Japanese shelves with Korean-made goods. 70 new product pitches a month, a 90% acceptance rate. The Japanese did not fall for his prices, they fell for his sourcing. He could find anything, anywhere, and land it at a cost no one else could touch. But living off a single customer means one phone call can erase you. So in May 1997, Park brings a dollar store idea back home. A 460 square foot shop in eastern Seoul, under the name Asco Even Plaza. Everything priced at 1,000 won, or about 70 cents. 6 months later, the Asian financial crisis guts the Korean economy. The worst year in living memory turns out to be the perfect time to run the cheapest store in this country. With that tailwind, and a decade of sourcing muscle already built, Park's store spread fast. Then 2001, Daiso Sangyo, the Japanese giant Park had been supplying, invests 400 million yen, about $2.7 million for a 34% stake, and the Korean stores changed the name to Daiso. Park later admitted that switching the name to Daiso was a hasty call he never imagined would haunt the company later. That is the decision that would put Daiso on a boycott list 18 years later. In December 2023, Daiso bought back the entire Japanese stake, $382 million. Run the math from Japan's side. $2.7 million in, $382 million out. That is 140 times in 22 years. Both sides got what they wanted. Japan booked one of the greatest minority investments in retail history, and Park got his company back. By the way, the Daiso you've seen in LA, Singapore, and Sydney, they are different companies. That is the original Japanese Daiso. 25 countries, 200 plus stores in the United States alone. The Korean Daiso runs 1,600 plus stores in Korea and exactly 0 anywhere else. So that is question 1. A plant manager who started over in his early 40s with nothing, filled Japanese shelves for a year, copied the model home at the bottom of a crisis, and bought his name back for $382 million. Now, let's talk business. Since Daiso opened in 1997, a roll of kimbap on Korea's streets has gone up fivefold, from about 1,000 Korean won to 5,000 Korean won. Daiso's floor price has not moved since, still 1,000 won, same as the opening day. So how did a store that never raised its base price become a brand both tourists and Koreans line up for? Let's drill down into the machine. Most retailers price the same way. Build a product, add the cost, put a margin on top, print the tag. Daiso runs that assembly line backwards. The price comes first, and the product is engineered downward until it fits. This is Daiso's playbook. Price comes first as long as quality holds. If a cup does not need a handle, take it off to match price. If there's a pattern on both sides, keep it on one side only. For example, Olive Young sells the Riedel Shot Serum, a K-beauty product, for about $23. Daiso sells one from the same brand for $2.14. Same core ingredient. What changed? The Daiso version is a smaller dose and single-use packaging instead of a pump bottle. The supplier re-engineered its own product to live under Daiso's price tag without giving up the quality. Same quality? Find a way to fit the price. When supplier says the price is impossible, Daiso does not drop the price. It tells the suppliers to drop the cost by moving volume. You make 5,000 units, try to make 50,000. Already at 50,000? Why not try 500,000? This is because Daiso knows the secret of unit cost. The more you produce, the more the per unit fixed cost, which are labor, power, plant overheads, dissolves into the run, even as the material cost per unit stays flat. So Daiso pushes its suppliers to manufacture at a scale that finally makes the price work. And it owns no factory, but Park himself walks onto the supplier's floor and gives advice and redesigns the process to squeeze the cost down. I told you he once was a plant manager. And here's another secret. Daiso sources from 35 countries and 3,600 suppliers. Around 600 new products are born in a month. When a French glassmaker, the people behind Luminarc, balked at making a wine glass for only under 50 cents, Park's team did not stop. They proposed to strip the brand, print only made in France, and run it on the idle lines. The glass finally shipped. To see what that sourcing actually buys you, Costco, the global benchmark for low prices through sheer economies of scale, runs a gross margin of about 12%. Daiso, with every price capped at 5,000 won or about $4, runs a gross margin of 38%. For a store where nothing costs more than a few dollars, that is astonishingly high. Daiso keeps 38 cents of every dollar before running cost. Read that again. The cheapest store in Korea marks up its good like a fashion brand. That is only possible if the buying price is brutally low. Daiso buys so far below the retail that it can charge 70 cents, keep 38% of margin, and still make consumers feel like they have a steal. And cheap by itself does not buy loyalty. Value does. The same sourcing power that crushes the cost also lands products people are genuinely happy to own at that price. Cheap isn't what Daiso sells. Cheap is what Daiso buys. Now, marketing. Daiso's entire ad budget for 2025, $4 million, 0.12% of revenue, which is to say basically nothing. But that budget is real. It is just hiding in two places. First, the bait. The oldest trick in retail, the loss leader. Daiso drops a product so absurdly underpriced that it advertises itself. A wireless keyboard for $4, the kind that sells for $40 to $70 elsewhere. The extra cost of making it that cheap, that is the marketing expense. By doing so, the product itself may earn nothing, but it pulls the crowd in, who then buy other products along the way and walk out with a full basket. A Stanley-style tumbler for $4, the brand name version runs $49. Each one sells out, makes the evening news, floods TikTok, and Daiso pays nothing for any of it. Second, Daiso stores. Over 1,600 stores from Gangnam to county towns. Daiso is never not nearby. The blanket presence is a billboard most brands could only dream of buying. The kind of nationwide visibility you normally pay a fortune for. And the bill for that billboard is rent, which Daiso keeps absurdly cheap. Just 5.1% of revenue. This is because Daiso breaks retail's oldest rule. Its stores sit on second floors, in basements, stacked into multi-level buildings, skipping the pricey ground floor windows every other brands fight for. It can do that because Daiso is a destination, not an impulse stop. People seek it out because it is the cheapest place to grab everyday essentials. And once they're inside, the hundreds of new products that land every month mean they rarely walk out with only what they came for. So Daiso does not need the priciest corner. And landlords know this too, because a Daiso store drags foot traffic past every other tenant in the building. So this is the loop. Rent is Daiso's advertising. Daiso's rents are low. Cheap rent keeps prices low. Low prices mean more traffic, and more traffic makes the next lease cheaper still. Daiso's storefront is a nationwide ad campaign that pays for itself. The flywheel runs itself. So how much is this machine actually making? Let's take a look at Daiso's filings. Revenue last year, $3.2 billion. Operating profit, $316 million, a 9.8% margin in a Korean retail industry that averages under 4%. 11 straight year without a single down year. Over 4 times bigger than a decade ago. Zero debt since 2021. Net cash of $271 million. But here's the line worth pausing on. Daiso's gross margin actually fell over the decade from 41% to 38% because prices stayed frozen while cost rose. What saved the profit was scale. Operating costs dropped from 38% of revenue to 29%. Margins did not improve because Daiso charged more. They improved because Daiso got bigger. But will this hold forever? Costs only ever climb. Inflation is relentless as long as the economy runs. And that is exactly what makes the dollar store so hard to keep alive. Daiso has been doing fine for nearly 30 years. The real question is where it goes from here. A machine built around one constant has exactly one weakness. That very constant. Daiso's first answer is the product mix. The ceiling, 5,001 or $4, was set in 2006 and has not moved upward in 20 years. The floor has not moved in 29 years, but the catalog is quietly drifting upward. The 5,001 items are now 15% of the mix and rising every year. Park's founding promise was 1,001 or 70 cents. The honest version today is that the promise is migrating to 5,001, one product at a time. The price never moved, the menu did. A business strategy for survival. I'm pretty sure Daiso will never strip away its 1,001 price tag for symbolism, but only decrease its proportion of sales to increase the average price of the basket sold to consumers. Daiso is also expanding what it sells, and its biggest hit is beauty. It started slipping cosmetics on its shelves a few years ago, almost quietly. Then its beauty section grew 144% in a single year, and suddenly, Daiso was standing in Olive Young's lane. The K-beauty empire that, for 2 decades, never had a real rival. Remember the Riddle shot, that $2 serum? It became a national sellout, pulled 100 million plus impressions on TikTok and YouTube, and rode that wave into Ulta beauty in the United States. Daiso has quietly become K-beauty's entry price. But the thing that makes all this work, the supplier relationships, the sourcing instinct, also sits in one man. And that man, Jung-bu Park, is 81 years old. Still chairman, still flying to suppliers. He's logged 1.5 million miles, about 60 laps around the earth. His Japanese counterpart, Yano Hirotake, who invented the 100 yen shop and gave Daiso its name, handed his company to his son in 2018 and passed away in 2024 at 80 years old. Park is now older than Yano ever was. He is lining up his daughter to take over. But here's the thing. Machines can have manuals, but the instinct that wrote the manuals might not transfer. However, while risk hangs over the company, I personally don't worry about Daiso's future, at least in the domestic market. 1,600 plus stores already sitting in every corner of the country, and a supplier network 29 years deep. You can copy the prices, and you can't conjure that footprint or that network overnight. Dollar stores are dying everywhere. America's Dollar Tree held its $1 line for 35 years, then gave up in 2021. Now, it sells $7 products. Over there, cheap was the product. And when inflation came, the business model died. Daiso treated cheap as a spec, a hard constraint, and built a world-class sourcing machine around it. Here is my final take. In retail, your value proposition is your sourcing power. That is the whole game. The moat Daiso built, 3,600 suppliers deep and 29 years long, outlasts the man who built it. Daiso's grip looks set to hold for a long, long time. Daiso didn't get rich selling cheap. It got rich buying better than anyone else. Thank you for watching the Crew Report. I'm Ku, and I'll see you in the next report.